Most driven, successful people, like Brown students, are extremely goal-oriented. Those characteristics likely led to academic achievement and your acceptance into Brown. And just like you had a plan for your high school success, many students feel the need to have a detailed plan for their time in college and beyond. For example, I'm a pre-med. I'm going to concentrate in biology, go to medical school, and become a doctor. Or I'm going to concentrate in applied math and economics, go work on Wall Street or in management consulting, get an MBA, and then go work in private equity. Or I'm going to concentrate in computer science, go work in Silicon Valley, and then have a startup that'll be a unicorn with $1 billion valuation. Or more simply, I want to get married, have children, and live a comfortable life. My suggestion: don't fall into the trap of your desire to succeed and the attendant need to lay out a detailed path on how to get there. Embrace the twists and turns of life. I have 4 lessons that illuminate these suggestions. Lesson number 1, use your 20s as your learning years. Think about your time in college and the years that follow as the time to figure out what it is that you really want to do. My own time here on College Hill and then beyond these halls of Ivy helped give an example to how this worked. So I graduated from Brown in 1987 and before returning to teach, I had a 25-year career in consumer goods marketing, culminating in a decade of chief marketing officer positions. But to be honest, I had no idea about the concentration I chose or the career that I ended up in when I got to Brown. And both the concentration and the career were the result of embracing detours and taking twists and turns. I came to Brown expecting to concentrate in economics for an intended career in business. And so I took micro and macro, and guess what? They were horrible. I hated them. Now, because I had an interest in philosophy, upperclassmen suggested religious studies. And I took courses in that, and I loved them. So I concentrated in religious studies, took economics courses of my choosing, and also took and TA'd Professor Hazeltine's courses, because even then, those were the courses for Brown students interested in business. So during your time here at Brown, use it to explore and consider concentrating in something you love, and then fill it in with courses that build the skills that you want to have. Now, when I graduated, I told you that I wanted to have a career in business. And I had no idea what that meant. I had never heard of investment banking, commercial banking, private equity, management consulting, let alone consumer goods brand management. And even when I heard what the words were, I had no idea what people actually did in those jobs. So I interviewed for jobs in commercial banking because I liked analysis. And I interviewed for a sales job with Procter & Gamble because I read that P&G was a great place to start a career. I was fortunate enough to get offers in both. I took the job at P&G, and there were elements of sales that I liked, but the work wasn't analytic enough, and I understood for myself that I really need and enjoy the energy and camaraderie of an office, as opposed to working independently in outside sales. So I went and interviewed back at commercial banks, got a job as a credit analyst, and I could do the work well, but repetitive and boring for me. So mentors suggested marketing, specifically brand management, would be a good path, but that required an MBA. I went to the Kellogg School at Northwestern, got my MBA, was fortunate enough to intern and get a return offer from Kraft. And about 2 years in, I realized, wait a minute, I like this. I'm good at it. I really enjoy the people. Now I'm on a career path to being a CMO. I was 30 years old. Lesson number 2, create 3-year plans and nothing more. It is awesome to have a long-term goal, like I want to become a chief marketing officer. But it is patently ridiculous to think that you can lay out a path to get you from here to someplace that might be 15 or 20 years down the road. I suggest 3 years as a reasonable time horizon for that plan. And when I built my 3-year plans, I thought about 2 things. Where did I want to see myself at the end of that shorter period? And what sorts of roles of experience and experiences did I want to have? I'd revisit my plan each year, take stock of how was I progressing, and what sorts of changes might have occurred either inside the company or outside the company in my personal life that might suggest an adjustment. Here are 3 examples of periods in my life. Early in my career, I was deadly focused. I'm going to build as many marketing skills as I possibly can and progress my career as quickly as possible. Later, when I had children, I took a job 15 minutes from the house so that I could be home for family dinner and make it to soccer games. And then finally, when the kids were older and less oriented around mom and dad, I took a chief marketing officer position that required a ton of travel, but that met my career objectives. And thank heavens, I have an awesome wife, because I couldn't have done it without her. Okay, lesson number 3. Use the 4 C's of job content, company culture, career path, and compensation to guide your career decisions. Job content is, what is the work you're going to do? What skills are you going to build? Are you going to like it? Company culture is, what are the people like? What are the values of the company? And again, will you like it? Remember, you will spend more waking hours with your people and at work than you will with anyone else in your life. Career path is, how does the work that you're doing today prepare you for what's next, whether it's inside that company or outside that company. And compensation is, what are the financial rewards? Now I recognize, and you all should recognize, as it did for me, the prioritization of those 4 C's can and likely will change as you go through different phases in your life. And different folks among you will have different priorities because, hey, we're all different people. But I would suggest that early in your career, focus on job content and company culture. And why? Back to lesson number 1. Your 20s are your learning years. Use that time to figure out what it is that you really love to do and that you're really good at, and to figure out what type of environment you'd like to work in. Okay, one last lesson, and the lesson that brought me back to Brown to teach. Be open to serendipity. So my career has ultimately had 3 phases to it, of learn, earn, and return. And before I came back to Brown, I had the learn phase of my 20s and the earn phase of building a marketing career. And when I left my last CMO position at Ocean Spray, I thought about my legacy. And I thought about my parents, 2 school teachers who had impacted hundreds and hundreds of students during their careers. And I thought about my minister, social worker father-in-law, who started resettling Cambodian refugees from the killing fields in the 70s. There are 3,000 people alive because of him. By comparison, I have tremendous pride in my business success, but by comparison, let's be honest, award-winning marketing campaigns for Kool-Aid Fruity Pebbles and Maxwell's coffee feels a little small. So for me, I had to have a 3rd act, and that 3rd act was teaching college students. And that is when serendipity hit. I was walking the dog along the Seekonk River, and I bumped into Professor Hazeltine, a god. And I say this to my students, one of the finest human beings you have ever met. As good as you hear he is, I promise you, he's better. So we start talking, and it turns out his co-teacher is moving to Virginia, and thus began a conversation that ended in these years of teaching with him. So I hope that that wasn't supposed to happen, but hey, why not? So I hope that as you think about your time here at Brown and beyond, you'll think about these lessons. Right? Think about these lessons. Use your 20s as your learning years. Create 3-year plans. Use the 4 C's of job content, company culture, compensation, career path to guide your decision making. Consider whether your career might have phases like learn, earn, and return. And be open to serendipity. Embrace the twists and turns of life. Thank you.